securities regulators, nor is it an indication that the advisor has attained a particular level of skill or ability. Investment advisory services may only be provided to clients in jurisdictions in which the firm and its representatives are appropriately registered or exempt from registration. You should not assume that any discussion or information contained in this broadcast serves as the receipt of or as a substitute for personalized investment advice from the advisor. Different types of investments involve varying degrees of risk, and there can be no assurance that the future performance of any specific investment strategy, or product, or any non-investment related content made reference to directly or indirectly in this broadcast will be profitable, equal any corresponding indicated historical performance level or levels, be suitable for your portfolio or individual situation, or prove successful. Past performance is not indicative of future result. Investment advisory services offered through Wealth Quarterback LLC. Tired of losing money in the stock market roller coaster? Frustrated with the government taxing you into oblivion? Worried about inflation? How do you prepare for so many financial uncertainties? Welcome to the show that will help you develop your game plan. The Financial Quarterback with Josh Jalinski. Josh is a noted financial advisor and president of the Jalinski Advisory Group, and he's here to answer your questions. Call into the show at 800-321-0710. 800-321-0710. Now, let's kick off your financial future. Here's Josh Jalinski.
Josh Jalinski, the Financial Quarterback, talking about all things financial. My recent trip to Hawaii. June told me, hey, we want to hear about your trip. Well, June, I don't want to tell people I'm away. So take the hint, but I will tell you all of the stories of my vacation. We'll also be talking about Spartacus, freedom, the trucker convoy, the seizing of private assets by the Canadian government, and how Canada has turned into China, and the U.S. may be next. So, folks, be very careful. There's an intersection between money, finances, faith, politics, and more. And we're going to talk about that today. But first, I'd love to hear from you. Give me a call now, 800-321-0710. 800-321-0710. We're going to call this show the Spartacus Show. Jim, you're old. Jim, what do you remember Spartacus? You're not that old. You're a young man. You're a young man. Sorry, Jim. Did you like Spartacus? I watched Spartacus on the plane ride, coming home, and I was taught, the power of a story, the power of imagining, and how there are so many links between money and Spartacus. So, Jim, do you remember Spartacus? Did you like it as a movie? You're Italian. Huh. You never saw Spartacus? Oh, my. Ben, the intern. So we have all varying ages. Ben has never seen Spartacus. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so I watched it some 15, 20 years ago because Spartacus was, I think was it the best picture in 1960? It was a little racy for the time, a lot of innuendo and kind of, you were 1 year old, Jim? Jim was one. So maybe he's not as old as I thought he was. But my father was born in 46 and he watched it. But I guess, it tells you. So I am Spartacus. We're going to play all these quotes. I would also am going to reveal a very powerful quote later. What does Spartacus have to do with your money? Because there are investing themes and economic themes tied to the devolution, the stripping away of your basic liberties and freedoms that are happening before our very eyes. And while others see distress, I hear a lot of you, this is more of a conservative radio station. People say, Josh, the market's going to hell. The world's going to hell. I'm going to sell everything and head for the hills. That is not what you want to do. You want to advance, not retreat. You want to see opportunity and sees it in the investment horizon. And people are inflation, deflation. You know what? Usually the worst thing you can do is sell everything and go away. Because what happens is the stock market is a measure of price inflation. So there are investment themes with this I Am Spartacus. So people look at what's going on in Canada. They look at what's going on in the U.S. and they say, man, our freedoms are being stripped away daily, and yet they cower and they do nothing. I think Spartacus has some great lessons for all of us in money, in finance, and in faith. You know, I had somebody once tell me something, but I'll talk about that later. What somebody once told me. But let's go to Spartacus. Clip number 1, death is a freedom for a slave. Go ahead, clip number 1, death.
If you looked into a magic crystal, you saw your army destroyed and yourself dead. If you saw that in the future, as I'm sure you're seeing it now, would you continue to fight?
Yes.
Knowing that you must lose?
Come on, we can't. All men lose when they die. And all men die, but a slave and a free man lose different things.
They both lose life.
A free man dies, he loses the pleasure of life. A slave loses its pain. Death is the only freedom a slave knows. That's why he's not afraid of it. That's why we'll win.
Death is a freedom the only slave knows, and that's why we'll win. So I don't know if you remember, so Spartacus was supposedly set, I don't know, maybe 70 to 100 years before Christ's crucifixion. And you saw in one picture all of these Roman slaves who rebelled. I believe it was called the Third Servile Wars of 71 BC. So you're going to get an education here today, Jim and Ben the intern, and Jim, the Italian. So Jim, you know, you're Italian, you get the Roman heritage. Anyway, you got to watch Spartacus when you get home. It's a powerful movie. So death is the only freedom a slave knows. So what does this have to do with the Freedom Convoy? Well, truckers are protesting in Canada. Have you ever met Canadians? They're nice people. But their freedom bell has been kind of neutered. Because for years of statism, they're kind of just, chilling out, relaxing. They're content. Will that where we be? Will we be there 20 to 30 years from now? Content with bread and circuses, to kind of cue the Roman Empire theme. So these truckers are being outed by journalists on Twitter. They're being doxxed. They're being threatened just for saying, quit with these mandates, these unconstitutional mandates. Now, we're not saying don't get vaccinated. Hey, if you want to get vaccinated, get vaccinated. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. It is the imposition. What is the highest virtue? What's the highest virtue in a civil society? Is it liberty or is it security? Is it freedom or is it safety? Some would say safety, hence, but whose definition of safety, right? One day they tell you no masks, the other day they tell you masks, then they tell you cloth masks, and they say the cloth masks are actually dirty, use the N90. It's like every day the goalposts are switching. And that's what happens when you have a power vacuum and the disruption of our freedoms on a daily basis. So I had some amazing talks this week and last week with some influencers, and we were talking about the nature of freedom, and the nature of God, and the nature of money, and what is money. So we'll get into all that. It's going to be a very fun show. But what questions do you have? Have you seen Spartacus? Did you like it? Give us a call, 800-321-0950. 0710. What did Patrick Henry say? Give me liberty or give me death. Now, what does liberty have to do with economy? Everything. As we're seeing in the trucker protests in Canada, the Canadian government, you have private enterprise, which could theoretically do what they want, right? GoFundMe, which is the biggest, I don't know. If somebody uses the GoFundMe page, I'm opted to not give to that person. That's all I'll say right there. You know, you've heard these stories about people feeling so. In Florence, New Jersey, there was a story of, did you hear about this? So somebody used a GoFundMe page and then found out it was a whole scam and it was a hoax. And then there's no accounting for GoFundMe pages. If Jin sets up a GoFundMe page, you know, for his health expenses, you know, he can spend that on whatever he wants. There's no auditing of that, right, Jim? You know, I'd rather give to a church. I'd rather give to something where there's some accountability. GoFundMe doesn't really have that. So GoFundMe was blocking the freedom convoy of truckers. Then, guess what happens? The Canadian government intercepted, it's something called GoSendMe. I just found out about this yesterday. It's like a Christian GoFundMe. And it's a GoFundMe that is saying, hey, we're not going to get in, you know, if you want to give to liberal causes, conservative causes, whatever, we're going to be neutral. The Canadian government is seizing those funds. After having put pressure on GoFundMe. So now there's a link between freedom and money. I'll talk about that when we return. This is Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback. Don't touch that dial.
It's always on your mind. Retirement, whether you're 55 or 35. Not everyone wants to work forever, and most would like a comfortable retirement. You may already have a plan, but is it the right one? Josh Jalinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program, is ready to guide you towards financial freedom. He challenges the ways your parents and grandparents saved money with fresh strategies, which are exactly what you need to navigate today's volatile economic climate. Josh's new book, Retirement Reality Check, is available to order on Amazon. It's an easy read that guides you through his system for securing your financial freedom, including tax-saving strategies, understanding the right investment mix, and more. Order now. Retirement Reality Check. Call Josh at 888-988-JOSH. Let Josh help you map out your retirement using fresh strategies. Call 888-988-5674. That's 888-988-5674.
Hey, meet you out on the first tee?
Yeah, I'll be right there. Just reading this article.
We're going to talk about
On what?
New bill Congress passed. Looks like it's going to affect the value of all retirement savings plans. My financial guy didn't tell me about this when I saw him the other day.
Well, my guy did, and we made a plan. You may have heard of him, Josh Jalinski.
Josh Jalinski is your guy?
Listen, if you're 10 years or less from retirement,
Which I am.
Josh will give you a free economic plan, which includes retirement planning, the 27-point checklist to make sure your income lasts as long as you live. He'll even help you navigate the current tax code.
I'm definitely going to call Josh.
Cool, but first, can we play some golf?
Call Josh Jalinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program, for your free economic plan. 888-988-JOSH. 888-988-JOSH. 888-988-JOSH.
We're back. This is Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback. You can stay for this segment so you can listen. Okay, we have your calls at 800-321-0710. We're talking about Spartacus and all things financial, the Freedom Convoy. So, Ontario, Canada leader Doug Ford declares a state of emergency over trucker protests. What is that? You got to watch Spartacus. Crassus, Marcus Licinius Crassus declared a state of emergency of the Roman slaves. All these people wanted to do was take a ship from Cilicia and get the heck out of Rome. They really wanted nothing to do with the Roman government. They wanted to be free. They were dancing, they were singing, they were making melody. But what did Crassus do? He put Pompey over here, he put somebody over here, so that they would be trapped, so that they would have no choice but to march on Rome. And for some reason, Spartacus marches on Rome anyway, even though the odds were clearly against him. The state uses power, uses force, uses coercion, uses states of emergencies. Think of Canadian leader Doug Ford. So we have these truckers. They're harming no one. They're saying they're blocking a strategic trade route. Dude, they were blocking bridges into Ottawa. I don't know about you. I'm not getting much from Ottawa. They weren't blocking whatever. Now, when they were using their right of free speech. Now, the Freedom Convoy voted to stay on Ambassador Bridge and defy Justin Trudeau. As the 7 p.m. deadline to clear it of protesters passes, the PM threatened everything was on the table, including military force against his own people. Similar like Marcus Licinius Crassus. And if you think that this is not going to happen in the U.S., think again. There was a convoy, whatever. I'm worried. I'm worried about the implications of finance. But what I'm not worried about is the Canadians are waking up. The Parisians are waking up. They're thinking about having their own freedom convoy in the French. When will the people in the U.S. wake up? We're seeing that already. New Jersey lifted some of the mandates on their children. Why? Because in 2022, New Jersey is a swing state. People don't realize New Jersey has a lot of red districts and purpley districts. So Congressman Josh Gottheimer, Congresswoman Mickey Sherrill, Congressman Tom Malinowski are all in the political fights of their life. Congressman Andy Kim. So they must have placed a call and said, hey, these mandates on children who have really shown to not been that at risk due to the virus, we got to lift them because our political stakes. As Marcus Licinius Crassus. So the story goes like this. Spartacus was the leader of a band of Roman slaves. They would go from town to town freeing the slaves in hopes that they would just sail out, be driven by Silesian pirates, to freedom. And what happened? Nothing. Crassus did not let them go to Silesia. He then used the force. Doesn't that sound like Justin Trudeau? We're going to use military force, if necessary, on our own citizens who are expressing their God-given right to expression, right? When people were stopping business due to protesting all matters, we're okay with that. Unless it gets in the way of the coercive power of the state. Then we have Jack, who's concerned about stock market drops. Jack, go ahead. See, this is why I'm talking meta-narrative of freedom and liberty,
Josh.
because so many people are depressed about the stock market. We got to have a big picture here. Because I'm optimistic if people in Canada are starting to wake up, maybe people in the U.S. are starting to wake up, and maybe, just maybe November, we have a big takeover in Congress and the Senate, and we have a zoom bull market, Dow 38,000. So don't be so worried, Jack. Go ahead with your questions.
Well, I agree with what you just said. I don't understand why this government is not concerned about the invasion at our own southern border, yet they're concerned about Ukraine. But my question is what do we do with the market that we have right now, where all the major indexes are down? So you try to diversify, everything is down, in sync, and could this be the time where, how do we know that the market will ever come back? What guarantee is that it will ever come back?
Well, what guarantee, if we think about, let's say this is a bear market, a true bear market. The market will plunge another 25%. You will freak out, vomit your portfolio. A year from now, probably the worst time to sell. You'll never buy back, and you will see the next greatest bull market of your lifetime pass you by. That's what happens when people sell. When people sell, they never go back in. Now you can readjust your risk tolerance if you're scary. You can go 20% in the market, 40%, 60%. Keep 20, 40% powder on the sidelines. You could look at principal protected things like fixed annuities. You could look at cash value and life insurances. All these things I have. I have cash, I have insurances, I have stocks too. But it is nearly impossible to time the market down. Now, we've a market timing division in our firm, which we'd be happy to show you what we think is going to happen this year. But it may or may not happen, right? So the key, the reason why people say diversify is it's not just buying a bunch of different stuff, right? All of your stuff could go down 40%, right? But if you have 5 to 10% gold and 10% cash and 10% insurances and 10% annuities, that's 40% of your money that's really not tethered to the stock market. Does that make sense? So then if you lost half of the other 60...
Gold hasn't really been doing that great.
Gold was a great hedge this year against the stock market crash, which I said gold did not do great last year. If you look at gold this year, the market's down significantly. Gold, I'm looking at the 6 months. If I go to January 1st, gold, I'm looking at a simple ETF in gold. And depending on the day, it's up, a little bit, a couple percent, depending on what day you bought in. But it didn't go down. See, that's the thing of hedges. But then when the market's up and the market's up 20, that gold is going to water your portfolio down a little bit. You have to make a decision. Do you want to make 20% a year when the market goes up and 40% losses when the market goes down? That is an aggressive risk tolerance. Or do you want to lose, say, 4% when the market goes down and make 8% when the markets go up? Does that make sense? The best portfolio...
Yes, but my overall, what I'm trying to ask, my overall question is that not just you, all financial strategies seem to hinge on the theory that eventually the market will go up. I'm asking, is it a possibility with the climate that we're in, is that the market never comes back?
Well, that's what people thought in March of 2020. That's what people thought when Obama was president. That's what people thought from 2000 to 2002 when the Twin Towers were destroyed. That's what people thought in the Great Depression. I mean, the stock market, this is also the investment theme of this whole Spartacus talk, is investing is the story of business triumphing over politics. Does that make sense? You have to divorce your political beliefs. I'm a conservative. I think the world's going out too. From market dynamics. The market tends to not care about who's in the White House. The market tends to go up as a matter of inflation. Prices go up. Will you still pay $10 for a Big Mac 5 years from now? Probably. You may not buy steak, but you might buy that Big Mac. So what's going to happen is the McDonald's share price has more price resiliency and more stability. Now, am I purporting, I've said for years on this show that you should be ready for a 30 to 40% haircut in the market. It happened in 2008, and it happened again in March of 2020. Do I think we're there now? Not really. I'd chill out. I would rethink your whole investment portfolio, meaning when we have people who come to us and they say, I'm worried about their money, we want them to not worry. So you should have enough money in non-market correlated things. That's insurance. That might be a fixed annuity. That might be a fixed index annuity. It might be gold. It might be cash, where you could give yourself a pension for life that is non-correlated to the market. Does that make sense? That way, if the market goes down 50% from here, you're not selling. Now, would there be a time I would sell? Yes. I just don't see that being today. I could be very wrong. We could have a 40% drop in the market this year very easily. I think people are overly negative right now. I don't usually 40% markets crash when everybody's happy. Everybody's not happy right now. You know, people are too pessimistic. That's actually a bullish sign, not a bearish. But I'm not about prognostication or future telling. I'm about building a plan for income. Are you going to still need to buy and do commerce? Another Spartacus theory I'll share. They were going about this war in the Third Servile War, I believe between 71 and 73 BC, and they were drinking. They were making melody. They were having children. They were raising their kids, even while they were fleeing for their lives. So part of me was like, why didn't these people just run and get the heck out of Dodge? Because they knew that they might have been killed by the Roman Empire. So they wanted their 1 to 2 years of freedom to really count. They wanted to eat that Hershey's candy bar. They wanted to go to Mickey D's. They wanted to eat that steak because they didn't know how. See, that's the thing. Like, people, are you really going to sit at home and be depressed because so-and-so is in the White House? No. So that's sort of why the stock market tends to go up over the long haul, is because we sort of make peace with these realities. And that's what they were doing. You see in Stanley Kubrick's Spartacus, they're just enjoying their life as free people. Because before that, they were slaves. So there's enough pessimism, right? Go talk to your children. Educate them. Serve them. Bless them. Bless your church. Bless your synagogue. Bless your mosque. Do things for the greater good. So I hope that helps. But the financial tip would be business triumphs over politics. Number one. And number two, build a plan where your income over the next 10 years is not contingent upon the stock market so that you can sleep at night. So give us a call now, 888-988-JOSH, and I'll give you the 4-for-1 special. If you buy my book, The Retirement Reality Check, or call us for the 45-minute Retirement Reality Check today, you'll meet with one of our illustrious team members, yours truly included, for a checkup on your portfolio. If the recent stock market volatility has gotten you down, you know, we live in one of the only industries where when things are on sale, people freak out. Facebook went down like 30% in the last month. I look at that and say, things are on sale. Maybe I want to stock up. Average person looks at it and says, sell everything. So you have to reorient yourself. So call us, 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-5674. We'll be back after these messages. Are you worried about the recent coronavirus crisis and how it may have affected your money? Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback, inviting you to join me for my complimentary 6 ways to keep calm during turbulent markets webinar. If you schedule and keep your no-obligation webinar today at 888-988-JOSH, it's a great thing to do. If you're stuck at home under stay-at-home orders, call us right now, 888-988-JOSH. If you're bored, there's never been a better time to get a second opinion on your wealth than right now. 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-5674. And go to my website, retirementrealitycheck.com today and take your free investment profile quiz. And when you buy my book, you're eligible for 3 free gifts. 888-988-JOSH.
Call Josh Jalinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program. 888-988-JOSH.
Okay, we're with the Italian Stallion, Jim Ignatella, office manager of the Financial Quarterback. So, Jim, any questions on the recent stock market volatility or financial upheaval? Everybody's worried in the last month or two. What questions do you have about the economy or financial picture? Ukraine. Well, me too. But I've been worried about that for years. Nobody cared. I'm Ukrainian. So here's the thing. War is generally a good thing for the stock market. Gets the military-industrial complex humming again. businesses could do well, Lockheed Martin. I don't think that's going to derail the stock market. What I think derails the stock market, here's what you have to watch for. Once people lose faith in the Fed. Right now, everybody believes in the Fed. The Fed's going to, if the world goes to hell, they're just going to cut interest rates. That's what people kind of believe. And that will prop up the market. Thank you, Ben. Ben just got me a nice cup of coffee. Unsung hero of the show, Kathy and Ben. So I wouldn't worry about Ukraine. Here's the thing. I'm going to give you a list of all the things you could have been worried about. Do you know we just lived through the greatest bull market of our lifetime? And I let my own conservatism, I'll be honest with you, get in the way of my own portfolio success because I was overly conservative the last 10, 12 years. Think about all the things we could be depressed about. COVID, right? The market survived COVID. Heck, we don't even know if Canada will survive COVID, but the market survived COVID. Why? Because the key theme of investing is business triumphs over politics. Does that make sense? People conduct business because they need to eat. They need to put food on the table. Does that make sense? So I would like our listeners to call us at 888-988-JOSH. 888-988-JOSH if you want the free review, or if you have a question for me, give us a call now. 800-321-0710. I don't know. I'm not a big believer in the Ukraine thing derailing the market. Here's the thing. Russia invades the Ukraine. Then the American military-industrial complex gets a blank check. So think about all those stocks that would benefit, right? Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, defense contractors. I don't know. I'm not of the negative point. My stevia. So do you use stevia, anybody? I love stevia. Stevia is a low glycemic sugar substitute. So folks, we are live taking your questions on all matters financial. If you have a question, type it in the chat box. We are live on YouTube. I was just named the 23rd top ranked financial security professional in the country by Forbes. You can see the disclosure on our YouTube page or on our website. So give us a call now, 800-321-0710, if you have a financial question. So Spartacus and money. Any questions, Jim, on Spartacus and money? Or Ben, Spartacus and money before I go into my next quote. Okay, so there's a lot of things that we can learn. We have the Freedom Convoy. We have the U.S.-Canada border crossing blocked by Freedom Convoy protests. Ricky Schroeder calls on Ricky Schroeder. Do you remember Ricky Schroeder? Yes. That's more your time, Jim. Actor Ricky Schroeder said our truckers are going to maybe start mobilizing and doing what we need to do, which is shut down D.C., shut down Sacramento, shut down Albany, shut down these states and these capitals until we root out this evil that was almost perpetrated on us. We were so asleep. But what was the evil? The evil was the loss of liberty. So in Spartacus, they had no God. They had the Roman gods. What's kind of interesting is I'm of a firm belief that without a Judeo-Christian God or monotheism or theism at large, there is a vacuum for statism. If you think about that, What do we have now? We have an increasing power of the state. Why? Because back in the old days, I'm talking 100 years ago, 200 years ago, there were three main, what do we call them, institutions of civil society: church, state, and family. You don't want the church to be all-powerful. You want a strong family, and you want a strong government. You don't want the government all-powerful. You want a strong family unit. So what have we had? Had an erosion of the family. We've had an erosion of God in society. And so now there's a great vacuum for the state. So why are we putting so much trust in the state? Because we're fearful. So rather than a trust in God and a trust in family, what do? We trust the state. So if 1 week they tell us to wear purple masks, we wear purple masks. If 1 week they tell us to wear black masks, we wear black masks. If 1 week they tell us to wear KN95 masks, we wear KN95. Even though the only time, and this was 18 months ago, the only mask that supposedly worked was the N95s built by 3M when you get fit tested. And I've had nurses tell me, you know who you are, that the N95 masks, unless fit tested, don't really work that well. Now, I do believe they work to some degree. Having 3 kids in the NICU, I think, if you had COVID and you infect 2 people because you're masked, it's better than infecting 8 people because you're non-masked. So I'm not against masks. What I'm against is the thing that liberty doesn't matter. So Ricky Schroeder of the Silver Spoon is taking to Instagram. The 51-year-old is seen sitting outside beside a fire while reading the Bible. Ricky Schroeder. I think we see what we're facing here. The former Silver Spoons star said, "It's an evil that is trying to be forced upon our children, upon us. And God bless the Canadian truckers and the Canadian cowboys up there on the border. But before there was the Canadian trucker revolt, there was Artur Pawlowski." Have you heard of Artur Pawlowski? He's a Canadian pastor that was jailed many times. Guy would just read the Bible in the city square and they would jail him because he did so maskless. I mean, are there better people to jail than a Canadian pastor? But that's what's happening. In Moscow, Idaho, I don't know if you heard about this, people were arrested for singing psalms. Why? Why did they care so much about the Bible and psalms and pastors? Because they know the only power, there's only 2 powers that can really stand up to statism and strong family and strong belief in God. So whatever your beliefs in are, we respect them on the Financial Quarterback Show, but prove to me otherwise, and I'll talk more about the Spartacus link and your money. But first, call us right now, 888-988-JOSH, for the 4-for-1 special. If you call me right now at 888-988-JOSH, you get 4 free gifts. You get the Financial Place for 2022, a fresh ebook live for this year when you schedule and keep your no-obligation review. You'll get the Social Security Maximizer tool, the 27-point Ultimate Financial Game Plan, and a secret prize when you call us. For the 45-minute Ultimate Financial Game Plan, call us now, 888-988-JOSH. We'll be back after these messages.
Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback here. In these uncertain financial times, it is imperative that you guard your financial future. If you call within the next 3 minutes, we will offer our complimentary bear market survival guide, which will detail steps to help your plan to potentially survive the COVID-19 crisis. The bear market survival guide will cover how you might still be able to retire amid a volatile economic climate. We will throw in our complimentary 27-point ultimate game plan for retirement. Call us at 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-5674 for your bear market survival guide.
Call Josh Jalinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program, 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-JOSH. It's always on your mind. Retirement, whether you're 55 or 35. Not everyone wants to work forever, and most would like a comfortable retirement. You may already have a plan, but is it the right one? Josh Jalinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program, is ready to guide you towards financial freedom. He challenges the ways your parents and grandparents saved money with fresh strategies, which are exactly what you need to navigate today's volatile economic climate. Josh's new book, Retirement Reality Check, is available to order on Amazon. It's an easy read that guides you through his system for securing your financial freedom, including tax-saving strategies, understanding the right investment mix, and more. Order now. Retirement Reality Check. Call Josh at 888-988-JOSH. Let Josh help you map out your retirement using fresh strategies. Call 888-988-5674. That's 888-988-5674.
With a live edition of the broadcast. So I get email complaints when I do tape shows, but then when I do live shows, you don't call. So call me 800-321-0710. I actually receive complaint emails. Do you know this, Jim? When I do a tape show, people say, oh, why are you doing a tape show? Then when I go live, they don't call. 800-321-0710, folks. I'm thinking about doing a canned show just like every other financial person, or a boring show. Do we want boring and canned, or we want live, refreshing? So we're talking about Spartacus. Play Spartacus clip number 2. Go ahead. And then Nick's going to talk to us about the Veterans Bill. Go ahead. Do we have Spartacus ready? Okay, I don't hear the Spartacus clip. Okay, next we're going to go to Nick, and then we'll get to Spartacus. Go ahead.
Hey, Josh, good morning. God bless you and yours. I'm glad your son, thank God, is doing better.
Thank you. Yes, he's doing wonderful. So the update on...
I'm glad to hear that. You know, the best medicine is prayer.
Yes, it is. And little Jedediah Jalinski is, I don't know, he's like 8 months now, but he looks about 2 months younger because he's earlier, and he's doing great. So thanks for your prayers.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank God.
He's a beautiful
Josh,
kid.
as an American Marine veteran, I'm just getting by. The federal VA has heartlessly denied me compensation for physical disabilities that the U.S. military caused, going on about almost 50 years. And the bottom line is, with this infrastructure bill, it's going to end up costing $13 trillion. There's no money in it, what I've seen for American veterans. And then it's just, I mean, when does this nonsense end? What can we do? I wish the American people would speak up, because it's a really rough situation. The banks are giving 1/13 or 1% interest. I mean, remember the glory days in the 80s, 81 to 87 in the Rogan years? We had 6% in passbooks and up to 16% in CDs tax-free. When is this ever going to change?
Well, we also had 16% mortgages then, too. So...
That's true, too.
Sometimes the glory days weren't all that glorious. So I would encourage you, I would say the Freedom Convoy in Canada and what's going on in Canada encourages me, because regular people are waking up. So next up, we have Oliver. So, Nick, I would say get involved. You know, run for Congress. Talk to your kids and grandkids. You think your kids and grandkids don't want to know things? They do. Or drive them around, take them on errands, spend time with them. There's quantity time and quality time. And too many of us are worried about all these other people in the world going to hell, where our families are going to hell. Just, if we each focus on our kids, our grandkids, our nieces, our nephews, our families, have a strong family network, turn off the TV, read a book, read the Bible to your family. You'd be amazed. They actually want to spend time with you. Jim, your kids do want to spend time with you. I would like to spend time with you. I like hanging out with Jim better than working with Jim. Go ahead, Oliver.
I'm going to go a little bit off of the beaten path here with you, quarterback. I don't know hardly anything about so much of what you're talking about financially. I don't maybe need to know so much because I don't have nearly enough money to even consider it. But I just wanted to say one thing to you, Mr. Jalinski. You are a national treasure. I listen to you and I feel just completely inspired, completely helped by your views and your opinions, and I don't really have anything else to say. I concur with you, my friend, with 99% of what you have to say, and it's probably 100, but I don't want to blow your head up.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for what you do, Josh. You're doing amazing. I'm so with you, my brother, and I hope we get to meet sometime.
Thank you so much. And folks, if you want to meet with me, give us a call, 888-988-JOSH. You get to shake my hand. If you want to, you can bring your Purell, or we can fist pump. Folks, I'm really doing this show because I sense, and this is a 2-hour live special presentation, Spartacus Freedom, the Freedom Convoy, and your money, because I feel an angst and anxiety from people today that I've not felt in years. Do I believe that this is the big one where the market goes down 40%? Hey, could be. But if not, and even if so, the world will still go on. Freedom, faith, family are things better than finances. Finance is like fourth on the way down. It's a priority. Got to learn about money. Got to learn how to treat your money. But it's within, I'd rather have nothing like my father and have all my 4 kids love me. All my father's kids loved him. Wasn't, people wouldn't call my father a national treasure, but he was our family's treasure. We love my father. We love my mother. And you can be imperfect. You can make mistakes. Ask forgiveness. Too many people don't do that. So next up, we have your calls at 800-321-0710. A special live 2-hour edition of the program, Spartacus, the Freedom Convoy, and your money. Give us a call, 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-5674. We'll be back after these messages.
Hey, meet you out on the first tee?
Yeah, I'll be right there. Just reading this article.
On what?
New bill Congress passed. Looks like it's going to affect the value of all retirement savings plans. My financial guy didn't tell me about this when I saw him the other day.
Well, my guy did, and we made a plan. You may have heard of him, Josh Jalinski.
Josh Jalinski is your guy?
Listen, if you're 10 years or less from retirement,
which I am,
Josh will give you a free economic plan, which includes retirement planning, the 27-point checklist to make sure your income lasts as long as you live. He'll even help you navigate the current tax code.
I'm definitely going to call Josh.
Cool, but first, can we play some golf?
Call Josh Jalinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program, for your free economic plan. 888-988-JOSH. 888-988-JOSH. 888-988-JOSH.
Okay, we're back. Going to your calls at 800-321-0710. Talking about Spartacus and your money. Interestingly, what was the theology of Rome? So there's a link between theology, a view of God, your money view, economics, and your view of liberty. What was the theology of the Roman Empire? Does anybody know that? What was the theology of the Roman Empire? The Roman Republic had a cult of family. The reason why Rome flourished is they believed in a very strong family system. There were the patricians. They were the traditionalists. They believed in the idea of Rome that God had eternally fixed a place called Rome, and that Rome would be an eternal city, and that Rome would never perish, and that Rome was sort of the embodiment of God on earth. So they had really a cult of state, which then the Caesars then thrust upon that cult of state, and basically Caesar was Lord of all. And then the Greek word was kurios, which is very interesting. Jesus and the Bible took on that phrase kurios, it was intentionally a term against statism. I'm also going to reveal later on in the show why I think churches, and actually the American church, may be part of the problem, and theology may be part of the problem, because people aren't waking up to freedom and things like that. So next up, we got Monica, who is against the truckers. Go ahead, Monica.
Good morning, Mr. J. How are you doing today?
Great to hear you.
Good. I like you, and I like you, but I don't like your politics. You know that.
Fine.
But I like you anyway. That's why
I love you, Monica. I know your voice, and I know you really.
I know, and I'm a prayerful person, and I've been
sweetheart.
praying for you and your family for many, since you said, I heard about your son, and I like your show, but I'm just calling today about, let's just be careful about what your listeners, about what's going on in Canada. I don't know about Ricky, but what's affecting in Canada is also affecting us in terms of millions and millions and millions of dollars that we are losing. You know what I mean? They might want to have a freedom, but we all can protest. Of course, we have a right to protest, but we cannot have a right to protest and destroy, all these streets and causing all this. Remember when we already have all these things that are not coming in, and now they're going to make it worse. I'm the first person to say protest. Yes, of course, by all means. But you cannot do that and causing all these millions and millions and millions of dollars to people to, it's going to, then when all this chip falls down, it's going to hurt all of us, you know?
Yeah, well, I certainly respect your opinion. But there'd be some agreement on, we are given the God-given right to life, liberty, and property. And I would argue that life and liberty precede property rights. So what we have right now, you would say maybe the property rights precede the liberty rights of these truckers. So I think we agree more than disagree. I think if we go back to the three basic tenets of our founding, life, liberty, and the pursuit of property, even though pursuit of happiness, we could actually have a greater sort of agreement to disagree on certain things. So great way to end this hour. I want you to stay all next hour as we talk more about the Freedom Convoy. Also, we're going to talk about Joe Rogan's podcast now being refused to play by Alexa. So all of this kind of coming to a head. Freedom Convoy, Joe Rogan, Ukraine, and your money. Give us a call, 888-988-JOSH, for the free book when you schedule and keep your no-obligation review, 888-988-JOSH. And next up, Gordon, How to Survive a Financial Crash. Stay tuned, 888-988-JOSH, for the free book and the free 45-minute ultimate financial game plan, 888-988-JOSH.
WOR and WAXQ HD2 New York, an iHeart radio station. Available everywhere on our free iHeartRadio app. #1 for music, radio, and podcasts.
The rules keep changing every day. We'll make sure you know what they are. Doing our part to keep the tri-state safe. 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
An iHeart radio station.
53 degrees at 10 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Paul DeCastro. President Biden is planning to speak with Russian President Vladimir Putin in about an hour from now as tensions heat up between Russia and Ukraine.
The phone conversation is scheduled for 11 a.m. Eastern Time, according to the Kremlin. It will be the first time the two have spoken since the end of December. White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said on Friday a Russian invasion of Ukraine could be imminent. Biden has warned Putin there will be swift and harsh economic sanctions if he orders an invasion of Ukraine. I'm Jim Forbes.
And the phone call will come a few hours after the State Department began evacuating staff members from the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine amid concerns of a possible Russian attack. Russia has dismissed U.S. warnings of war as propaganda and hysteria. Police are moving to end the protest of anti-vaccine mandate truckers more than 12 hours after a Canadian judge ordered the truckers to end their blockade of a bridge linking Ontario and Michigan. Just after 8 this morning, police in Windsor, Ontario, said that they were starting to enforce the judge's order to clear the Ambassador Bridge. Vice President Kamala Harris is applauding Newark's efforts to combat lead contamination.
The vice president touring nationally on the critical importance of lead removal from pipes and paint, and she said she chose to make Newark her first stop.
To highlight what you have accomplished here in Newark as an example and a role model of what cities around our country are capable of doing. I thank you for that.
She joined Governor Phil Murphy and other leaders in a roundtable to applaud Newark's progress. The governor noted the city has now replaced every one of its 23,000 lead service lines. Newark reached a crisis point in recent years when bottled water had to be distributed to residents due to dangerous lead contamination in city water. Liz Warner, WOR News.
Well, gas prices keep on climbing. The current national average for regular gas is $3.48 a gallon. That's up nearly 20 cents from this time a month ago. In WOR Sports, the Islanders lost at Edmonton 3-1. They skate in Calgary tonight. Connecticut native Lindsay Jacobellis won her second gold medal of the Olympics, teaming with Nick Baumgartner in the snowboard cross mixed team final. So after a slow start, the U.S. now has 5 gold medals and 11 overall at the games in Beijing.
Here's your WOR Weather Channel forecast. Temperatures will run above average at least to start off the weekend. Partly cloudy today with a high 57. Cloudy overnight with snow moving in, a low of 32 degrees. That snow ends early on Sunday, around an inch or less of accumulation. And cloudy and colder with a high of 34. For Valentine's Day on Monday, some breaks in the clouds, but a high in the upper 20s. I'm meteorologist Jeff Marr.
Next news at 11. Start your day with Len Berman and Michael Riedel in the morning, 6 till 10 every weekday. I'm Paul DeCastro and 710 WOR, an NBC News radio station.
Tired of losing money in the stock market roller coaster? Frustrated with the government taxing you into oblivion? Worried about inflation? How do you prepare for so many financial uncertainties? Welcome to the show that will help you develop your game plan. The Financial Quarterback with Josh Jalinski. Josh is a noted financial advisor and president of the Jalinski Advisory Group, and he's here to answer your questions. Call into the show at 800-321-0710. 800-321-0710. Now, let's kick off your financial future. Here's Josh Jalinski.
Okay, so what does cancel culture have to do with all this? Joe Rogan is being in the process of being canceled by Alexa. So Bitcoin, Alexa, all of these things, what do they have to do with your money? Rumble offers Joe Rogan $100 million to leave Spotify and to join Rumble. If I were Joe Rogan, I would do it. Here's why. If they can control you a little bit, they can control you a lot. And one of the reasons the Joe Rogan podcast was uncensored, and by the way, Joe Rogan is not a conservative icon. He's no Rush Limbaugh. In fact, I think he's illustrative of the problem today with so many people. He's kind of a pot-smoking, I don't even know if he has any belief in God. But when I heard what's going on with Joe Rogan, I thought, Joe Rogan is like Spartacus. Spartacus was a naive guy. He just wanted freedom. I think that's what Joe Rogan wants. But freedom with no theology leads to greater tyranny. What do I mean by that? Last 10, 12 years, we'd have a rise of libertarians, right? From Ron Paul and all these other people. What's happening? Our freedoms are actually shrinking. Why? Because now the left has conservatives divided against moderates, divided against libertarians, where before there was that Reagan coalition of moderates, conservatives, and libertarians. I also think we need to go back to first principles candidates, people who have a certain set of principles, life, liberty, and the right of property. And generally, we can find consensus on those 3 issues. Next up, we have Gordon on how to survive a financial crash, then Pat How will rising interest rates affect bonds? And Darren, how did dollar cost average the market over years? I want Gordon to hold on. Next, we're going to Pat. You're on with Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback. Go ahead. Hello, Pat.
Pat just dropped.
Okay, next up, Darren.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, go ahead.
I have too much money, my retirement, too much money in the money market, and I wanted to put it in the market. I just don't know the best way to. They always say, maybe dollar cost averaging is better than putting the big lump sum in. I just didn't know, should I do it over like 6 months, a year, 2 years? Didn't know how to put that money into the stock market because I just got too much in the money market now.
Yeah, what I would do is I'd look for individual stocks that have had a sell-off in the recent months. I'd also look you could dollar cost average over the next year, take 1/12 or 1/6. It also depends on your risk profile. I think what's more important than dollar cost averaging is getting your tax strategy right, meaning are you putting money in things that will be tax efficient, or are you just going to be building your future tax liability? So we want to look at taxes. We want to look at the structure of your investments. We also want to look at the asset allocation and the asset strategy play, meaning how much in gold, how much in cash, how much in equities, how much in bonds. So we don't want you to put your money in the market and then, sell out in a month or two because the market goes down. You're freaking out. Does that make sense, Darren?
Yeah, that's why. I wanted to kind of dollar cost average, so I don't worry about like 1 month.
Exactly.
I'd be happy if it went down a month later then because I'd be buying cheaper the next month.
Exactly. But what if you dollar cost average over the next 12 months and on month 13th, the market crashes? That's why dollar cost averaging is an important principle of investing, but also asset allocation, meaning how much in stocks, how much in U.S. versus foreign, how much in value versus growth. When to buy individual bargains. Also asset location, meaning do you put money in Roths? You put money in things that are more tax efficient. Great question. And folks, look for our YouTube. Go to youtube.com. Search for The Financial Quarterback. Live, Alexa's refusing to play Joe Rogan. We'll talk about that later on. But first, Darren, any other questions?
Nope, I think that was helpful. Thank you.
And if you call us within the next 3 minutes, I'll throw in 3 free gifts to you at 888-988-JOSH. We will do the on-point risk analyzer where we will analyze your holdings from a perspective of taxes, fees, and risk, the Social Security Maximizer tool, and the 27-point ultimate financial game plan. So I think 3 things are important: dollar cost averaging, asset location, and asset allocation. And we do it different than anybody else. So call us now, 888-988-JOSH. Next up, Gordon, how to survive a financial crash. Go ahead, Gordon.
Yes, good morning, Josh.
Always a pleasant morning conversation with you, Gordon.
Yes, me too, Josh. A couple of weeks ago, you did an interview with the always interesting Harry Dent, and apparently he believed.
Apparently, Harry was right. Things went to hell 3-4 weeks later. He was finally right.
Sometimes he doesn't get the time quite right, but
even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Yes, very true. He believes
that's a great point, though. Harry Dent has come on this show every year, about every 8 months, 6 to 12 months, and he's prophesied doom. And he was right around 2020 with the COVID crash. He was right this last month. But when is he telling us to buy back? See, I love Harry's insights. I think he's a great guest. But the point that I want to get you to think about is he proclaiming now is the time to buy? The point is, if you just sell everything, I've rarely seen someone sell everything and then they buy back. It just doesn't happen. That's why asset allocation. Okay, I'm going to have, if you're really conservative, have 20 or 30% of the market. You don't need 80. 40. and then build out a portfolio that you can live with. Because if you can't live with the last month, you ain't seen nothing yet. Meaning, the last month was nothing compared to what's coming. Now, what's coming could be 18 months from now. I personally think the fact that everybody's so negative is actually a bullish sign. So I think we'll have some good values. So go ahead, Gordon, with your question.
Yes, he specifically mentioned that he thought that 30-year treasuries would be the best asset to hold during the financial cataclysm. I was wondering what you thought of bank CDs and annuities like fixed annuities and immediate annuities. How you think they will do during very difficult financial times?
Well, I think fixed annuities, cash value insurance, bank CDs are all very stable. And I would argue they're better than a treasury bond ETF. I'm just looking at one right now, down 3.29% for the year. Now that's an ETF of treasuries, not buying actual treasury bonds. When you hold the bonds to maturity, you get your money back. So I think treasuries could be a good bet. So could gold. So could percentage. But it's about asset allocation. You know what I mean? It might be 20 to 30% in stocks, 50% in annuities and cash value insurance and bonds. And I'm not giving you investment advice. We're talking purely hypothetically. You know, having 10% gold, things like that. You know, but realize that when the market goes up 20%, that portfolio is making like 4 to 8. It's not gonna kill it. But the best portfolio is the one you can live with without vomiting out your portfolio. Which I always say. And I get some people who are just worried right now, like Ricky Schroeder. Who would have thought Ricky Schroeder would be a voice of reason? And they're talking about a freedom convoy going down to the U.S. Why did this remind me of Spartacus? Because are the Canadian truckers really a threat to the U.S. government? No. But what is the threat? Is the birth of liberty in the human heart. Does that make sense? It's people saying my freedom trumps financial success. Meaning these people are going without food, without water. They're hurting their own businesses. Because they're saying, you know what, enough's enough. The mandates are not working. The mandates, they're now going to have COVID. They're going to have 100 different COVIDs to foster 100 different controls systems. And COVID's a horrible thing, horrible scourge. We should all be smart with our health. Like I've said before, I've gone to the bathroom. How many times you go to the bathroom and you see somebody, even with COVID, they do not wash their hands before they come out? That's disgusting. That's more disgusting than masks or no masks. People washing their hands. It's gross. You go to the bathroom, you wash your hands. I said this 18 months ago. Or you step in my house. People go in my house, they wear their shoes. You know what? You know how many germs are in your shoes? Take your shoes off before you step into a house. There's a lot of good things that we can learn from COVID. You know, if you're sick, don't go to work. Stay at home. Jim could tell you, we've had people, they show up at work, they get everybody sick. So hopefully COVID has taught people common decency, respect, hygiene, keeping distance. I don't want somebody on top of me that I don't really know that well anyway, breathing in my face, spitting on my face with their particles. All of those things are very good things that COVID's taught us. Being smart, staying home, caring that what could be a cold could turn into pneumonia for an elderly person. We didn't stop our whole lives for 100 years due to that. So the Freedom Convoy, Joe Rogan, Spartacus, they all have interesting links. And we're going to go, any other comments? We're going to go to Nunzio and Pat up next. But any other comments, Gordon?
No, thank you, Joe. It's wonderful talking to you today.
Always wonderful talking to you, my friend. And folks, next up, we're going to talk to Nunzio. He obviously is Italian. He appreciates the Spartacus information. And Pat, who says, how will rising interest rates affect bonds? When we return, this is Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback. Don't touch that dial.
Are you worried about the recent coronavirus crisis and how it may have affected your money? Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback, inviting you to join me for my complimentary 6 Ways to Keep Calm During Turbulent Markets webinar. If you schedule and keep your no-obligation webinar today at 888-988-JOSH. It's a great thing to do. If you're stuck at home under stay-at-home orders, call us right now, 888-988-JOSH. If you're bored, there's never been a better time to get a second opinion on your wealth than right now. 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-5674. And go to my website, retirementrealitycheck.com today and take your free investment profile quiz. And when you buy my book, you're eligible for 3 free gifts. 888-988-JOSH.
Call Josh Jalinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program, 888-988-JOSH.
Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback here. In these uncertain financial times, it is imperative that you guard your financial future. If you call within the next 3 minutes, we will offer our complimentary bear market survival guide, which will detail steps to help your plan to potentially survive the COVID-19 crisis. The bear market survival guide will cover how you might still be able to retire amid a volatile economic climate. We will throw in our complimentary 27-point ultimate game plan for retirement. Call us at 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-5674 for your bear market survival guide.
Call Josh Jalinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program, 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-JOSH.
Okay, we're back. This is Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback, with Nunzio. Go ahead, Nunzio.
Hi, Josh. How are you? How's everything?
Hey, is this my good buddy Nunzio?
Yes, yes. You were amazing in the first hour of the show about the great history lesson with the Roman Empire and Spartacus, and to compare it to what's going on with the freedom truckers over there. Unbelievable lesson. I wanted to thank you so much. You are good, my friend. Very good.
Thank you, and so are you.
I only have one question. Is the coffee, my son, still going to be able to afford coffee to have my espresso, or what? How do you feel about that?
Here's my tip for espresso. You're Italian, right? You like Lavazza?
Yeah.
Do you like Lavazza?
I do like Lavazza, but I use Kimbo.
Well, Costco has a Lavazza, $10. You get a big giant bag of espresso.
That's a good idea.
Good deal.
I'll probably try with that.
Kimbo, how do you spell Kimbo? I'll look into this.
Kimbo.
When an Italian tells you an espresso recommendation, you write it down, you take it. Because nobody does espresso better than Italians.
Thank you, Josh.
I went to, where did I go? I went to Hawaii, and I fell in love with a great little coffee place called Hanalei Bread Company in the sleepy town of Hanalei. And they actually had decent espresso beans, not Italian, but West Coast. Have you ever had, I'll have to get you their name next time. I forgot their name, but it's called the Sermon Blend. And it's some West Coast company. Pretty good beans. They're not Italian beans. I prefer a darker roast, but they were pretty good for a light roast. And they were the only place on the North Shore of Kauai that knew how to actually do espresso properly.
Well, probably they had the right calibration on the machine, on the espresso machine. The water it was heat up the proper way, because the water has a lot to do with it, and how hot it is when they make the espresso, the intensity of the roast of the espresso, and even the cup has to feel very warm, so it all tastes. It comes out at the best when you have it.
Yeah, I love. This is beautiful. This lesson in espresso. Now, Bitcoin also fell more than 5% in the last 24 hours, which is I've seen Bitcoin be a leading indicator of the market. As Bitcoin falls, usually the market falls the next day or two. We'll see if that holds true to next week. Wonderful conversation with you as always, Nunzio. Any other questions? I'm going to be giving more of Spartacus links and quotes.
That was great. The lesson was great, and I just say thank you to you. You're very good, and a hi to Jim Minutella there.
Jim is the best.
My
right?
paisan. Thank you, Josh.
You know, why am I not a paisan? No.
You are a paisan, of course.
I'm an adopted paisan.
For the espresso in you. That's
yes,
it.
the espresso. I loved going to Italy. That was the best country to visit. Hawaii and Italy are my two favorite places. Italy for the food.
For the food and the volcanic lands there makes everything taste good.
Yes. Yeah, and the volcanic, I guess, lands of Hawaii, too. Maybe it's
absolutely.
Something similar.
Very similar.
So we're going to go next to talk more about Spartacus. So this is an interesting point in the Spartacus Freedom Convoy, Joe Rogan. Why is Joe Rogan getting all of this flack? If you ever watch, who here listens to Joe Rogan? Not Jim. Ben's a little younger, so he says, oh, maybe he knows who he is. He's heard of him, but he's not. Joe Rogan attracts like 20-somethings and 30-somethings, generally. And it's interesting. I would say he's the first generational figure. So if you look at Rush Limbaugh, Howard Stern, they were of a preceding generation. Howard Stern, radio host who was sort of challenging financial morals. Now he's sort of like, on the left side, kind of different. Rush Limbaugh on the right, sort of an iconoclast, an educator. Then you had Hannity and kind of what I would call Rush Limbaugh's sort of thought children. Before that, you had Bob Grant. Joe Rogan's a new animal for a new generation. Kind of my generation in reality, like people I grew up with. They viewed, it was the first generation where marijuana was viewed as like, hey, having a drink of, I'm going to have a beer, I'm going to have a marijuana. Now, I don't agree with that. I think it kills brain cells. I think it leads to other things. I'm just saying it's sort of, that's why Joe Rogan was smoking weed on his podcast with Elon Musk. So whatever. Why do they care so much about Joe Rogan? Here's a guy who does not believe in God. Jim is making the money sign. Money, I think, is part of it. I think the other thing that they care about is if we can't control someone who's sort of he's a thought child of today's left. He's somebody who believes in the liberty to smoke weed and the liberty to do this and the liberty to have your own viewpoint on vaccines and mandates and masks. And if he's starting to question, we got to shut him down. We got to put him on a Roman cross. That's why this Spartacus thing is you got to watch Spartacus. Marcus Licinius Crassus is like the state today. Who are the arbiters? Who are the most powerful people in our state today? Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Facebook. Who owns Alexa that just shut down podcasts of Rogan? Now, I'm totally against whatever racist things he said and whatever, take them down. I'm not. My point is the thought freedom. I think it's about him having Robert Malone, but they don't want to say that. I think that Robert Malone, maybe we'll get him on the show. The other guy, Robert Malone, was banned from Twitter. So all of the tools of the modern state are now controlling the internet. That's why the new internet needs to be a decentralized network. Meaning, so right now, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, the cloud knows everything about you. Microsoft, Amazon. If your business is on Amazon cloud and they want to shut you down, they can. That's why Rumble is growing. That's why Gab is growing. That's why Getter is going. So financial theme here, because we're a financial show. This is a little bit different than normal. The financial theme is this. Invest in companies in the new media. There will be a new media that will be decentralized, like Bitcoin. So in Bitcoin, the government can't control it. They can regulate it. They can certainly tax it. But they cannot really invade the network. People have tried to hack it. They can't. Similar, there will be a Bitcoin of social media. Maybe it'll be a social media built on top of Bitcoin, where no one person controls your data. So if you have a Facebook account or an Instagram account, they know everything pretty much about you. Your likes, your dislikes, your trusts, all that stuff. Did you know that, Jim? LinkedIn, Microsoft, why are they owning Activision? Why did they buy a video game? Because they want to know what your children think. So because the data, why would you pay $68 billion for a video game? You're Microsoft. Couldn't you just buy the best video game people? Oh, they wanted the data. What is driving your children? What are their hopes? What are their dreams? We have kids who don't even know freedom. You know, it's sad how I'm seeing kids today who were masked for 2 years. They don't know how to look at you in the eye. They don't know how to shake your hand. They don't know how to be joyful. But my kids are homeschooled. We had homeschool cooperatives. They're joyful. They look at you and they're like normal kids. Where are normal kids? I remember when we homeschool, people would say, oh, are your kids normal? Are they social? Like we're idiots? Like we don't care about our kids? We want our kids to be social and interact with people. Anyway, so I digress. So next up we have Pat. I'm going to talk more about Spartacus. Oh, but Joe Rogan, to carry out the Spartacus theme, is like Spartacus. Will he end up on a Roman cross? Now, someone else we all know, Jesus Christ, ended up on a Roman cross, ended up changing human history. This was 70 to 100 years before that. Is our state so powerful that Joe Rogan will end up on a cross, a figurative cross? Isn't that what cancel culture is all about? You say something that the state doesn't like, you get canceled, you get shut down, and then you get hung on a cross. Not a literal cross, but a figurative cross. You have no prospects to make money anymore. You have no prospects for advertisers because the advertisers pull. So the future is decentralized content. I think that's an advertising principle. Do you know Gab, which is sort of an alt-right website, is in the top 15 of 15 social networks now? One of the top 15 most visited places for news, because they were shut down by Amazon Web Services in 2017. The guy built his own framework. His name's Andrew Torba. I'm not agreeing with all that he agrees with, but the point, very interesting, how he saw this coming, so he built his own mainframe in Clark Summit, Pennsylvania, of all places, in the woods of Pennsylvania. So I think if Joe Rogan was smart, he would just build his own network, take his money and go home. And who owns Spotify? Who was the big owner in Spotify? Does anybody know? No, Chinese communists. They had a sizable portion hidden and controlled through U.S. companies and foreign companies, like one of the biggest companies in the world. So is there a link there? I don't know. But you know what? U.S. companies are acting no real different than the Chinese. You can say certain things. You can't say other things. You know, China's just more open about it. Next up, Pat, go ahead. You're on with Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback.
Hey, hi, Josh. I feel like you're on some big topic stuff, and I'm bringing you down with just a real nuts and bolts question.
No, we like all your questions at 800-321-0710, so go ahead.
But I have some treasuries that are maturing, and I just was wondering if I want to keep them, that portion of what I have in treasury, and generally short and intermediate term. And I was just wondering, we all kind of know that the Fed is raising rates in March at some point, but how long do those increases in the short-term overnight lending rates take to trickle into the actual secondary market or the auctions if you're dealing with Treasury Direct? Is it like it's not immediate, but is it months or days, or I honestly just never had to worry about it before.
Well, the Treasury auctions are usually pretty much in tandem. The last time rates were pretty high was 2019 rates, December of 2018. So you would have to look at a rate calendar, like a Treasury rate calendar, to see the correlation of time. That's a great.
Just like a chart of the yield.
If I don't address that in the future, if you could call and remind me, I would like to do a show on that, because I think now Stan Harley, who is our resident expert on all things like charting, he says that there is a 40-year cycle in bonds, which he believed the low. We actually debated this, and I was right, and he was wrong. He was off by a year. I said that 2020 was the absolute low in rates, and that they will gently creep up.
Right.
So you'd have to look. I'm looking at 10-year Treasury rates by month. I want to say it's a monthly thing, but I don't think it's that delayed. In December of 2018, December 1st, 2018, the 10-year Treasury was 2.83. On October the 1st, 2018, the 10-year Treasury was 3.15. You could buy literal auctions yourself that day. So did you buy actual Treasuries, or are you buying funds? The funds
No, they're actual Treasuries. Yeah, I actually hold the bonds. I don't hold the funds.
So,
and some of them are in a secondary brokerage, and some of them are, I just have an account linked to Treasury Direct. But when you have I have some 3 and 5 years, they're coming due in like the beginning of March, and I just was gonna, have them instead of reinvest them. I was just gonna go to cash until because I think, when you're talking about possibly a 50, or 2 basis points or whatever, you know what I mean, the going up another 0.5%, possibly 0.25%, it makes a difference over time. So I just didn't want to be stuck with 1.5 when I could have 2. Not that it makes a huge difference, but it's it's better.
Yeah, I'm not a forecaster of that, but Fed Chairman Bullard of the Fed, a Federal Reserve member, is suggesting a 100 basis point rate hike by the summer.
By July
1st. I don't even see why it's that bad. Is a 1% rate hike gonna stop the world?
I don't think so. I'm kind of. I think I've heard you say that. I think some higher rates would help a lot of people. And particularly people like older people, so you don't have to have your money completely in riskier assets.
Yeah, I for one think Trump made a grave error when he fought Powell in December of 2018. Even though I called on Trump to challenge Powell, I was the one who did that before anybody talked about it. I don't know if you remember, I went on CNBC in 2017, talked about the rate cycle and how all of a sudden Trump was president, they were starting to raise rates because they thought their normal track was they were going to raise and normalize rates because they thought that would hurt Trump, and they didn't care, right? Then we got hit with COVID, and they had to lower rates. Rates need to be around 3% on the 10-year Treasury, I think, to give the Fed ammunition against the next recession, which I don't think the next recession will be caused by a 50 basis point rate hike or a 100 basis point rate hike. I just don't. Could be wrong. If it is, then our economy is so sick. Our economy is sick, but I think it's sick 12 to 18 months out. I don't think it's as sick as people think today. Because I think what you're going to see is if we have all these people unmasked for summer, people are still going to buy. People are going to, people want, it's sort of like the roaring 20s after the Spanish flu, right? People are going to be happy again. We have gridlock, right? Joe Biden, who everybody's scared about, President Biden, what's being done in Washington? They couldn't even pass the infrastructure plan. Gridlock is generally good for the markets, right? What do we have? We have gridlock. So I don't see a 50 to 100 basis point rate hike really being the cause of a big crash. I think it's a healthy thing for the economy. But we shall see. I think people should be prepared regardless. So great discussion. And yes, it's a diversion, but I love these diversions. This is the beauty of live talk radio. So give us a call if you'd like to meet, 888-988-JOSH. I got to take a break. When we return, we'll be back with your calls at 800-321-0710. And if you want to meet with me live, call us, 888-988-JOSH for the free 45-minute ultimate financial game plan with yours truly, Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback. Don't touch that dial.
It's always on your mind. Retirement, whether you're 55 or 35. Not everyone wants to work forever, and most would like a comfortable retirement. You may already have a plan, but is it the right one? Josh Jalinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program, is ready to guide you towards financial freedom. He challenges the ways your parents and grandparents saved money with fresh strategies, which are exactly what you need to navigate today's volatile economic climate. Josh's new book, Retirement Reality Check, is available to order on Amazon. It's an easy read that guides you through his system for securing your financial freedom, including tax-saving strategies, understanding the right investment mix, and more. Order now. Retirement Reality Check. Call Josh at 888-988-JOSH. Let Josh help you map out your retirement using fresh strategies. Call 888-988-5674. That's 888-988-5674.
Okay. Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback. We're talking more about Spartacus, Joe Rogan, the Freedom Convoy. Monica said we disagree, but I really don't think we do disagree. There's an ordering of first principles. See, what's happening right now is we have a very small belief in God, really I would say an agnostic society. So there is no ordering of first principles. What do I mean by that? Monica rightly asserted at the end of our last hour that the right of the truckers to protest should not impede the private property rights of those in commerce. And that is no doubt how I believe the state will be using their force and justify their force. But it's the ordering of first principles. What are the first principles? We are endowed with certain inalienable rights by the Creator. So a belief in the Creator. And then three things: life, liberty, and property rights. So they are saying, but they're not really saying this because we kind of live in a post-Christian era or post-Judeo-Christian era, that the right of property comes third, the right of liberty comes second. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that's why the whole Spartacus thing really gets right down to it. So we're going to get some more of the Spartacus quotes. Let's get to Spartacus quote number 4. One of everyone's...
I'm Spartacus! 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 I'm Spartacus!
So if you watched this, you feel something. You get goosebumps. Because Marcus Licinius Crassus says, basically, I'm going to give you all an opportunity to stay alive. You will remain a slave. So Jim, Ben, you get to remain a slave if you give up the real identity of Spartacus. And then all the slaves stand up and they say, I am Spartacus, because they realized, it's sort of like the Freedom Convoy, that their liberty, they'd rather die than become slaves again. Their liberty was their chief goal, their chief end. And they said, I am Spartacus. It was sort of the climax. There was many. There's like about 10 really amazing quotes. It was more than a famous line from the famous, very powerful thing. Now, it's interesting. Some people thought that screenwriter Dalton Trumbo actually used this as like a hidden communist kind of thing. And what Trumbo and others were communists. I mean, we could talk about the communist elements of Spartacus. I'm more seeing the freedom element. And the whole idea of I am Spartacus is we are all each Joe Rogans and freedom convoys, and we all want our life to have liberty and meaning and purpose. And the money import is whatever businesses will be fueled in the new economy will be fueled on decentralization and on the right of liberty and private property. So I am Spartacus. Is the Freedom Convoy, is the Joe Rogan an I am Spartacus moment? I don't think the Joe Rogan is. Because what did he do? He basically said, I'm sticking with Spotify. Now, if he said, I'm going to go with Rumble, but you know what? I then want to invest in companies in the new media that are not going to suppress people just because they have differing beliefs, which was sort of the whole point of I'm Spartacus. Now, it was a thrilling adventure, Spartacus, so we'll talk more about. Another interesting quote from Spartacus is the God of slaves quote. And what's interesting here is they're talking about God. So there was a Roman God, there was a Cilician God. I want Crash to get the quote, the God of slaves quote. Has anybody gotten it yet? Cal? Ben? No one can find this God of slaves quote. But basically, Spartacus is saying that he doesn't really have a belief. His belief's in freedom because, he was a slave. But if he believed in a God, he would believe in a God of slaves. And what's powerful about that is, and so many years later, Jesus Christ comes on the scene, who was a God of slaves, God of setting freedom to the captives of sin. So interestingly enough, Kirk Douglas's character, Spartacus, and what do you need more? A belief in state or belief in God? Now, Marcus Licinius Crassus comes down like Justin Trudeau is coming on the Freedom Convoy people, and he's saying, you know what? We need to stop these people because they are a threat to Rome. They are a threat to commerce in Rome. What's happening with the Freedom Convoy? They are a threat to commerce. So an intersection of money now, economy, and commerce and theology. So the God of slaves quote by Kirk Douglas in the movie Spartacus is a point that we all have a God or a view of God, even if you're agnostic, that what's interesting is you sort of play out your theology in life. So Kirk Douglas, even though he didn't have a formal belief, he didn't believe in the Roman gods, he believed in a God of slaves who would liberate the human heart. Very interesting. So I know some of this was Hollywood back in the 60s, and there were other things here. So Freedom Convoy, Spartacus, and you, and Joe Rogan, what are the investing themes? The investing themes are invest, maybe companies that seize upon this will be growth companies in the future years. Rumble, I believe, grew on the news, and we're not recommending you buy or sell Rumble stock due to that. John wants to determine how much you will get in Social Security. Go ahead, John.
Hi, good morning, Josh.
Good morning.
I'm 66. I plan on working into my early 70s. I want to wait to take my Social at 70. As I'm making more money every year, not too much more, but more, how back does Social Security go to take off your lesser earning years? I mean, is it from when I started work at 16, or is it later than that?
I mean, they go back. I mean, your work history is your work record. So they go back to your 18 or whatever.
Oh, they go all the way back then.
Yeah. And you take,
All right,
I believe, the highest, you take your highest calculation, and they take like your highest 30 years or whatever. So I'll have
your highest 30 years?
Yeah. What is your exact question though?
As I'm making more money, the Social Security is going to take out the lower earning years.
Yes,
And I want
exactly.
to know
They take
how
like the
far back
highest.
do they go?
So let me read
How
this.
far back do they go?
They go back to 35 years. The 35 years you earn the most.
Earnings.
So yeah, if you make more and you're 60, and let's say that actually helps your formula to counteract years where you didn't make as much when you were younger.
Right.
So,
now, does my service years count when I was in the military?
What a lot of people who don't know this, let's say you're 60, right?
Right.
And you're tempted to take Social Security at 62. You want to let that grow till you're 70. Because even if you die at 71, your spouse will get the higher of yours versus hers. So you might take hers at 62 or 67, but you want the higher of the two to grow. Especially if a lot of people listen, they live paycheck to paycheck. And you don't know how long you have, so you think I'm going to take it early. The only time I would take it early is if both you and your wife are unhealthy. Like my parents were both pretty unhealthy. They both died around 70, 71. I kind of sensed that with their health history. And so I recommended them to take theirs at 62. So I hope that helps. So give us a call, 800-321-0710. Did we take our 42 break? I'm so enamored by the content today. Folks, give us a call, 800-321-0710. So Rumble, I don't know did you hear about this in the news, Jim? Rumble offered Joe Rogan big money to join. He rejected their $100 million podcast offer. Now, Joe Rogan has 11 million listeners a day. That's what I'm going to aspire to. So everybody remind me, because if some pot-smoking imbecile can do it, I can too. But this is the thing. Do we really have the first principles enough? Now, Rumble has a SPAC, and I'm not recommending you buy or sell that, but it's spiked on the offer of the Joe Rogan offer. And, it'll probably go down now because he said, I don't want to join Rumble. But what it tells you is there is room for opportunity. Now, this is also interesting. Rumble is planning to invest more than $50 million in Florida. Florida is becoming a hotbed of recruitment. So let's go to the next Spartacus quote. Quote 3, I'm not afraid to die. Go ahead.
Are you afraid to die, Spartacus? No more than I was to be born.
And let's go to the other quote, we must stay true to ourselves. Go ahead.
Maybe there's no peace in this world, for us or for anyone else. I don't know, but I do know that as long as we live, we must stay true to ourselves.
So some great Spartacus quotes, although the best quote is the God of Slaves quote that we still cannot find. I'll have to reveal that on tomorrow's show. I will have to sit through 3 hours of the video and find the exact quote. The point is this. What are our first principles? What is our theology? There's a theology of money, even if you're an atheist, even if you're agnostic. What principles do you give? Are you generous? Are you prudent? Some would say in the Bible, Jesus speaks more about money and than even heaven and hell, which is interesting. Why? Because where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So how you handle the material world is a reflection of how you handle the spiritual world. So very interesting. Now, why were what's funny, and this is my thing, my prophecy, if you will, is the Freedom Convoy will end because the Canadian government or the U.S. government will band together and use the power of the state to coerce and to force the Freedom Convoy to be significantly muted. I don't know. That would be my prophecy. Similar to how Marcus Licinius Crassus, who was the bad guy played by Laurence Olivier in the movie Spartacus, they eventually won. They beat Spartacus. But did they really win? No, because the theory was the freedom, it's kind of cool, Spartacus' wife, played by, I believe, Gene Simmons, and new baby, it was sort of a Mary Christ child theme, fled. They fled into the mountains of Gaul or the Apennine Mountain. They fled somewhere. But the idea was that freedom would live on, the freedom in the human heart, even though there was a squashing of the slave rebellion. But here's the funny thing. Freedom did not really live for 450 years. It took 450 years or 500 years for the Spartacan dream of freedom to come true, only due to Christianity's overthrow of Rome. In a way that really, so it wasn't done by force, it was done by freedom of the mind. That's why before the Berlin Wall came down and before communism ended in Eastern European bloc countries, what happened? Pope John Paul and Billy Graham would have crusades in Eastern Europe. Because before the former Soviet bloc countries would conceive of freedom of material goods, they had to conceive of freedom in the human heart, which was only given by God, inalienable rights. That's why our founding documents are so important. So up next, I'll return with our concluding thoughts on Spartacus, freedom, and why I think the American church is part of the problem. When we return, this is Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback. Don't touch that dial.
Hey, meet you out on the first tee?
Yeah, I'll be right there. Just reading this article.
On what?
New bill Congress passed. Looks like it's going to affect the value of all retirement savings plans. My financial guy didn't tell me about this when I saw him the other day.
Well, my guy did, and we made a plan. You may have heard of him, Josh Jalinski.
Josh Jalinski is your guy?
Listen, if you're 10 years or less from retirement,
which I am,
Josh will give you a free economic plan, which includes retirement planning, the 27-point checklist to make sure your income lasts as long as you live. He'll even help you navigate the current tax code.
I'm definitely going to call Josh.
Cool, but first, can we play some golf?
Call Josh Jalinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program, for your free economic plan. 888-988-JOSH. 888-988-JOSH.
Are you worried about the recent coronavirus crisis and how it may have affected your money? Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback, inviting you to join me for my complimentary 6 Ways to Keep Calm During Turbulent Markets webinar. If you schedule and keep your no-obligation webinar today at 888-988-JOSH. It's a great thing to do. If you're stuck at home under stay-at-home orders, call us right now, 888-988-JOSH. If you're bored, there's never been a better time to get a second opinion on your wealth than right now. 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-5674. And go to my website, retirementrealitycheck.com today and take your free investment profile quiz. And when you buy my book, you're eligible for 3 free gifts. 888-988-JOSH.
Call Josh Jalinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program. 888-988-JOSH.
Okay, we're back. This is Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback. So why is the American church the problem? If you read in Paul's letter to the Romans, I think pastors have been agents of state oppression, much like in Romania and other Eastern European countries where they actually use churches against freedom. They're being done today. Here's why. There's 2 quotes common used in Christian circles to say, be obedient to the state. What was Ben Franklin's original quote? Ben Franklin's original motto for the U.S. was, rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. But they changed it to e pluribus unum. I want us to go back to the rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God as the motto of our country. But there are two texts, and I might talk about this in the future, that are misused by pastors to call for obedience to the state. One of those is render to God the things that are God and Caesar the things that are Caesar's. To Caesar, which is to pay your taxes, which I all believe in paying your taxes. I believe we should all take, our tax dollars and pay them. Don't disobey that edict. But people will say, God's over here. God's in a box over here. Caesar's in a box over here. No, that wasn't the point. The point was, back in the day of Rome, there was something called the cult of Caesar. Caesar was Lord of all. And for you to equate God with Caesar was actually itself subversive. Does that make sense? So the fact that Jesus had a coin, and he says, who's on the coin? Render to God the thing. Saying, Caesar can have this little fiefdom. He can have this little coin and power over coinage, which is another link to money. But he doesn't have control of the human heart. Statism does not have control over the human heart. And in actuality, that quote, render to God the things that are God's, was your whole heart should be governed by God. That tax dollars, it's nothing for God. So that was the point. It's not equating the two. And then Romans 13, which I could talk about in a future episode. So what does this all have to do with your money? Because for there to be optimism, so many of you are being turned by the winds of pessimism. Letting pessimism influence your money decisions. Don't. Let freedom, liberty, truth, the American way. Because business triumphs over politics. Things are usually better in the future, even though we think they'll be worse. Give us a call, 888-988-JOSH, for a second opinion on your wealth, and get the free 2020 guide for your money, 888-988-JOSH, when you schedule and keep your novelty.
The preceding program was sponsored by the Jalinski Advisory Group. Any awards, rankings, or recognition by unaffiliated third parties or publications, including 5-Star Wealth Manager, Advisory of the Year finalist by Senior Market Advisor, and Top of the $1 Million Roundtable, are in no way indicative of the advisor's future performance or any individual client's investment success. No award, ranking, or recognition should be construed as a current or past endorsement of Josh Jalinski or Wealth Quarterback LLC. Information regarding specific awards, rankings, or recognitions is available on the Wealth Quarterback website at jalinski.org. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. Investment strategies such as asset allocation, diversification, or rebalancing do not assure or guarantee better performance and cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. There are no guarantees that a portfolio employing these or any other strategy will outperform a portfolio that does not engage in such strategies. This broadcast should not be construed by any client or prospective client as a solicitation to effect or attempt to effect transactions in securities or the rendering of personalized investment advice. Due to various factors, including changing market conditions, the information discussed in this broadcast may no longer be reflective of current positions or recommendations. While information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, Josh Jalinski and Wealth Quarterback do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. The tax and estate planning information discussed is general in nature, is provided for informational purposes only, and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Listeners should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding their specific legal or tax situation. Investment advisory services offered through Wealth Quarterback LLC.
WOR and WAXQ HD2 New York, an iHeart radio station. Available everywhere on our free iHeart Radio app. Number 1 for music, radio, and podcasts.
100 years as the voice of New York.
Hiya, it's Joey Reynolds.
I'm Barry Farmer.
I'm Ralph Snodsmith.
Another episode of McCann's Place.
This is Martin Block.
I'm Sally Jesse Raphael.
This is 710 WOR.
An iHeart radio station.